Okay, so get this. What if, like, everything, your coffee cup, the stars, even our thoughts, are just information, like ones and zeros running the whole show?
Sounds kind of matrixy, right?
Totally. And that's what we're diving into today. This wild idea that the universe is basically a giant simulation.
And we're not just talking hypotheticals here. We've got physicist Melvin Vopson actually trying to prove this.
Yeah. And we've got Watt from the W Files breaking it all down for us. They're like the masters of making mind-bending stuff actually make sense.
Right. Their blog and YouTube channel are amazing for this kind of stuff.
So let's start with the basics.
Wait, what?
What's fascinating about Vopson's approach is that he's not just, throwing out these philosophical ideas.
Right.
He's actually bringing some serious scientific method to the table.
Yeah.
He's got a really solid background in physics, particularly in things like solid-state physics and memory technology.
Okay.
And that's where this whole fascination with information comes in.
Right, because we often think of physics in terms of, like, matter and energy.
Mm-hmm.
But Vopson is, like, flipping the script.
Totally.
And saying, what if information is, like, the fundamental building block of everything?
Exactly. He's proposing that everything around us, from galaxies to grains of sand, is essentially made up of bits of information, like some kind of cosmic computer program.
Okay.
And he even has this concept called the Second Law of Infodynamics.
I love that already.
Which suggests that information might actually become more organized and efficient over time.
Okay, wait, so if my inbox, which is constantly overflowing, was following this law, it would magically sort itself out and achieve like a Zen-like state of emptiness.
Well, not quite that simple, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Vopson's theory is more about how information patterns become more streamlined as systems evolve.
Okay.
Kind of like a computer program optimizing itself over time.
I got it.
And to kind of test this idea, he looked at the evolution of the COVID-19 virus.
Oh, wow. So he's going from like the universe to a virus.
Right.
Quite a leap.
It might seem that way, but just stick with me.
Okay.
What Vopson found was that as the virus mutated and became more complex, its informational footprint actually decreased.
Interesting.
It's as if the universe was compressing the virus's data, like zipping a file on your computer to make it smaller.
Okay. I'm starting to see where he's going with this.
Right.
So it's like the universe is constantly striving for efficiency.
Exactly.
For a more elegant code.
Yes.
Just like a programmer trying to like clean up their software.
Precisely. And this brings us to one of the core ideas behind Vopson's simulation theory.
Yeah.
The notion that the universe might be functioning like a giant compression algorithm, constantly streamlining and optimizing its information content.
Okay, this is where things are starting to feel like we're stepping into the matrix.
Right.
Right? If the universe is constantly optimizing its information, does that mean there's some kind of supercomputer out there running the show behind the scenes?
That is the question that Vopson is grappling with.
Right.
And he's not alone. It's a question that's captivated philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Yeah.
Are we just characters in someone else's elaborate simulation?
Whoa.
Right.
It's a big question.
It is a big question.
But even with Vopson's impressive credentials and his really interesting research, there are plenty of skeptics out there who are raising their eyebrows at this whole simulation idea.
Of course, and healthy skepticism is essential in science.
Right.
One of the main criticisms leveled at Vopson's theory is that his second law of infodynamics is still very much a hypothesis.
Yeah.
We don't have enough concrete evidence to say for sure that information behaves this way.
Right. It's like that saying extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Exactly.
So what kind of evidence would it take to convince the skeptics? I mean, are we talking about finding a hidden message in the cosmic microwave background radiation that says made in a simulation by, fill in the blank?
Well, while that would certainly be a headline-grabbing discovery, Vopson is actually proposing some more down-to-earth experiments to test his theories.
Okay.
One of them involves, get this, weighing information.
Weighing information?
Yeah.
You mean like putting a hard drive on a scale?
Yeah.
And seeing how much the weight changes after I delete all my cat videos?
That's the basic idea, but on a much smaller scale. Vopson theorizes that if information is truly fundamental, it should have some tiny, almost imperceptible mass. So his experiment involves using incredibly precise instruments to measure the mass difference between a data storage device before and after deleting information from it.
Okay, so we're talking about some serious scientific detective work here.
Right.
But if he manages to prove that information actually has weight, That would be a game changer.
Absolutely. It would challenge our fundamental understanding of physics.
Yeah.
And could provide a tangible link between the digital world of information and the physical world we experience.
Wow. Okay, so he's trying to weigh information, which already sounds pretty wild. But I hear he's also got another experiment up his sleeve.
He does.
That involves something even more out there.
Yes.
Overloading the universe's computational power.
This one definitely pushes the boundaries of what we consider possible.
I bet.
The idea is that if our reality is a simulation, it must be running on some kind of incredibly advanced computational system, right? Like a cosmic computer.
So he's basically trying to find the limits of that cosmic computer. Like seeing if we can make the universe lag.
Yeah.
By running too many processes at once.
Essentially, his proposal involves concentrating a massive amount of information processing in a very small area, kind of like creating a localized information overload.
Got it.
And the idea is that if there are limits to the universe's computational power, we might be able to observe them in the form of strange phenomena.
So we're talking like glitches in the matrix.
Yeah.
Like time slowing down.
Yeah.
Or objects disappearing.
Exactly.
Sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
It might sound far-fetched.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of Vopson's approach. He's not afraid to ask bold questions and propose experiments that challenge our current understanding of reality.
But let's be realistic. These experiments sound incredibly complex and expensive. Is anyone actually willing to fund this kind of research?
That's the challenge Vopson is facing. Securing funding for research this radical can be difficult.
Yeah, I bet.
Especially when it's pushing the boundaries of what's considered mainstream science.
It's a shame, really, we're talking about potentially paradigm-shifting research here.
Absolutely.
The kind that could redefine how we understand existence itself.
It highlights a real tension in the scientific community, you know?
Yeah.
The balance between supporting established research and taking risks on bold new ideas.
Right.
Vopson's work definitely falls into the latter category.
Definitely. But despite these obstacles, Vopson is forging ahead.
He is.
Driven by a passion for uncovering the deepest mysteries of the universe.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the science that's captivating, it's the philosophical implications of his work.
For sure.
That really get people talking.
Absolutely. If we entertain the idea that we might be living in a simulation, it forces us to confront some pretty profound questions about free will consciousness and even the meaning of life itself.
Okay, we're officially entering the deep end of the philosophical pool now.
Right.
So let's take a deep breath and dive into those questions next.
Let's do it.
Wait, what?
So we've kind of delved into the science behind Vopson's simulation theory.
Yeah.
But now let's wade into some of those like philosophical waters.
Okay.
You know, if we are indeed just living in this giant computer program, what does that mean for concepts like free will?
Yeah, are we all just puppets dancing to the tune of pre-written code?
Right.
I mean, it really makes you wonder if like every decision you've ever made, every path you've taken was already laid out for you.
That's one way to look at it.
I mean, it kind of takes the pressure off, right?
Yeah.
But that idea of determinism where everything is preordained, I feel like that can be a bit unsettling for some people.
Yeah, for sure. It challenges our sense of agency, you know, our belief that we actually have the power to shape our own destinies.
Right. Like, why bother getting out of bed in the morning if everything's already decided?
Exactly.
But isn't there another side to this coin?
There is?
Some people might find a strange sense of liberation in knowing we're part of a grand design.
Exactly. There's a school of thought that suggests that even if we're living in a simulation, understanding its rules might actually give us a new kind of power.
Oh.
Like, imagine if we could crack the code,
you
know, manipulate the parameters of the simulation, we could potentially influence reality itself.
Okay, now we're talking, this is starting to sound less like a philosophical dilemma.
Right.
And more like an opportunity.
Exactly.
I'm getting serious Matrix vibes.
I know.
Like learning to bend spoons with the power of our minds.
Well, maybe not spoons, but the idea of influencing or even hacking reality within a simulated universe has definitely captured the imagination of many. And it raises questions about the limits of what's possible and what responsibilities we might have if we unlock that level of control.
It's almost like that age-old question about the tree falling in the forest.
Right.
If we can manipulate the simulation without anyone outside of it knowing, did we really change anything?
It's a fascinating thought experiment.
Right.
But whether we're talking about influencing a simulation or shaping our reality within the universe as we know it,
Right.
the ethical implications are huge.
Yeah.
What boundaries should we set for ourselves?
Totally.
How do we ensure that our actions don't have unintended consequences?
Right.
Especially for other beings within this reality.
Yeah, if we're getting into manipulating reality, we're wading into some serious ethical territory. It's like, if we create a simulation, are we playing God to the simulated beings inside it?
Right.
Do we have a responsibility for their well-being?
Absolutely. It raises a whole host of ethical questions that we as a society really need to grapple with. And these questions become even more urgent as we consider the rapid advancements in artificial intelligence.
That's true, because AI is rapidly becoming more and more sophisticated.
It is.
Like, what happens when we can create AI so advanced that it becomes indistinguishable from human consciousness?
That's a great question. And Vopson points out that as AI evolves, we might actually be on the path to creating simulated worlds.
Wow.
That are as complex and nuanced as our own reality.
So instead of just wondering if we're in someone else's simulation,
right,
we might actually be creating our own simulations filled with conscious AI entities.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, first is tragedy, then is farce.
Uh-huh.
But in this case, it's first as a thought experiment, then as reality.
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it really highlights the need for a deep understanding of consciousness. Not just artificial consciousness, but our own consciousness.
Right.
What does it mean to be a conscious being?
Yeah.
What obligations do we have to other conscious beings, whether they exist in a simulation or not?
It's like that classic sci-fi trope of robots becoming sentient and demanding their rights.
Exactly.
But instead of worrying about a robot uprising, we might have to consider the ethical implications of creating entire simulated universes populated by beings with their own desires, goals, and even like a sense of self.
It's a heavy topic for sure, and Vopson is very clear that we need to proceed cautiously and ethically.
Yeah.
He emphasizes the importance of what he calls ethical innovation.
Okay.
Making sure that our quest for knowledge and exploration doesn't lead to unintended and potentially harmful consequences.
So it's not just about the thrill of discovery.
Right.
It's also about the responsibility that comes with wielding such powerful knowledge.
Exactly like Spider-Man's Uncle Ben wisely said.
Oh, yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
Except in this case, we're not talking about spiderwebs. We're talking about the very fabric of reality itself.
The fabric of reality. I like it.
And it's fascinating to see how the public is responding to these ideas. You've got everything from full-blown believers who see Vopson's work as confirmation of their suspicions about the nature of reality, to staunch skeptics who dismiss it all as science fiction masquerading as science.
Right. It's like the internet has become this giant battleground.
It has.
Where people are either declaring, we're living in the Matrix, or shouting, this is all just a bunch of hogwash.
That's true. But I also see a growing number of people who are approaching this with a healthy dose of curiosity and an open mind. They're not necessarily convinced one way or the other, but they're intrigued by the possibilities, by the questions that Vopson's work raises about our understanding of the universe.
I think that's where I find myself.
Yeah.
On one hand, I'm like captivated by the idea that we might be living in this giant simulation, that reality is far more complex and layered than we ever imagined.
Right.
But on the other hand, I'm also like grounded by the understanding that we need solid evidence to back up these claims.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of the scientific method, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a process of constantly testing our assumptions, refining our understanding, and being open to new evidence.
Right.
Vopson's work is a reminder that we should never stop questioning, never stop exploring.
Yeah.
Even if the answers we find challenge our most fundamental beliefs about the world around us.
Okay, so we've talked about the mind-bending science and the philosophical rabbit holes that Vopson's work opens up. But what about the people who are drawn to this idea, not for the intellectual challenge, but because they believe they've already experienced glitches in the Matrix?
Right.
Those weird coincidences, strange occurrences that seem to defy the laws of physics or logic.
You're talking about those online communities where people share stories about objects disappearing and reappearing, time seeming to warp, or encounters with beings that defy explanation.
Right. It's fascinating how these stories tap into this like deep-seated human desire to find patterns and meaning in the world around us, even if it means questioning the very nature of reality.
It's true. I have to admit, some of the stories are pretty creepy.
Yeah.
But they're also incredibly intriguing. And even if we dismiss them as, misinterpretations or misremembered events or just plain old hoaxes,
Right.
they highlight something really profound about human nature.
What's that?
It's our inherent desire to find meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
To believe that there's something more to existence than meets the eye.
Right.
And for some people, the simulation hypothesis provides a framework
Yeah.
for understanding those unexplained experiences, for making sense of a world that can sometimes feel chaotic and unpredictable.
It's like if we can't explain something rationally, we might seek an explanation that fits our worldview, even if that explanation involves a simulated reality where the rules aren't quite what we thought they were.
It's a fascinating interplay between our rational minds and our innate desire to believe in something greater than ourselves. And regardless of whether those stories are true or not, they tap into this cultural fascination with the unknown, with the possibility that reality is far stranger and more wondrous than we ever imagined.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the scientific basis of Vopson's simulation theory to the philosophical and cultural ripples it's creating.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I think we need to address one more big question.
What's that?
What does it all mean for us?
Yeah.
How do we navigate a world where the very nature of reality is up for debate?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, there's no easy answer. But I think Vopson's work ultimately points to a message of empowerment, even in the face of profound uncertainty.
Okay.
It reminds us that we have the capacity to question, to explore, to push the boundaries of knowledge.
Yeah.
And even if we never definitively prove or disprove the simulation hypothesis,
Right.
the very act of engaging with these ideas expands our understanding of what might be possible.
Right. It's about embracing the mystery, the unknown, and acknowledging that our understanding of the universe is constantly evolving.
Absolutely.
But even if we're living in a simulation,
Yeah.
doesn't that make our experiences, our relationships, our struggles and triumphs all the more meaningful?
Absolutely. It's like that line from Shakespeare's The Tempest.
Oh, yeah.
We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. Whether we're made of stardust or computer code,
Right.
the essence of our being, the depth of our emotions, the richness of our experiences, those are all real,
Yeah.
regardless of the nature of the underlying reality.
So it's not about the platform, but about the game we're playing.
Right.
The story we're creating within it.
Exactly.
And even if there's a programmer out there somewhere, we still have the power to choose how we play the game, how we interact with the other players, and ultimately what kind of legacy we leave behind.
Beautifully put. And it brings us to, I think, a crucial point that often gets overlooked in these discussions about the simulation hypothesis.
Okay.
Even if our actions are predetermined, even if our free will is an illusion, we still experience the world as if our choices matter.
Right.
And that experience, that sense of agency, has a profound impact on how we live our lives.
So it's not about getting caught up in the philosophical debates, but about focusing on what we can control.
Exactly.
Our actions, our intentions, and how we treat each other.
Right.
Because in the end, that's what truly shapes our reality, simulated or not. Okay, so we've explored all these mind-bending theories, from the physics of information to like the philosophical implications of living in a simulated reality. But let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
If our reality is just a super advanced computer program, does that really change anything about how we live our lives?
That's a great question.
Right, because even if we're just lines of code in some cosmic computer program, we still feel love and loss, excitement, disappointment, all those messy human emotions just as vividly as ever.
Exactly. And I think that's a really crucial point to remember. Whether our reality is base reality or a simulated one, our experiences are still authentic to us,
Right.
The relationships we build, the challenges we overcome, the contributions we make to the world around us, those all have meaning and value, regardless of the nature of the underlying reality.
So it's not about the platform, it's about the game we're playing.
Right.
The lives we're living, the connections we're forging within this reality, whatever its true nature might be.
I like that, and I think that's a really liberating perspective. If we can let go of the need to definitively prove or disprove the simulation hypothesis, we can really focus on what truly matters, how we choose to live our lives, the values we uphold, the impact we have on others.
It's like, if life is a game,
Yeah.
let's play it with passion, with purpose, with kindness and compassion. Whether we're playing on a supercomputer or in a universe that's even stranger and more wondrous than we can imagine.
I love that analogy. And speaking of games, it's interesting to see how the simulation hypothesis has sparked such a wide range of reactions.
Oh, yeah.
From those who embrace it wholeheartedly to those who just completely reject it.
Oh, the internet is a battlefield of opinions on this one.
Oh, it is. You've got people claiming to have experienced glitches in the Matrix,
Right.
you know, those weird coincidences or unexplained phenomena that seem to defy logic.
Right.
And then you've got the skeptics who just dismiss it all as wishful thinking or pseudoscience.
It's fascinating how this topic really taps into our deepest fears and desires.
It is. Some people find comfort in the idea of a higher power.
Yeah.
You know, a programmer who's ultimately in control.
Right.
While others are terrified by the thought of being mere pawns in someone else's game.
It's like we're all searching for meaning and purpose
Mm-hmm.
in a world that can often feel so chaotic and unpredictable.
Yes, and for some people, the simulation hypothesis provides a framework
Right.
for understanding those big existential questions that have haunted humanity for centuries.
And I think that's part of what makes Vopson's work so compelling.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront those big questions,
Yeah.
examine our assumptions about the nature of reality,
Sure.
and consider possibilities that might have seemed like pure science fiction just a few decades ago.
It's like that famous quote from Arthur C. Clarke, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic."
Oh, yeah.
And when we're talking about the possibility of simulated realities,
Right.
we're definitely entering the realm of the seemingly magical.
For sure. So what's the takeaway for our listeners who are still trying to wrap their heads around all of this? Should we be living our lives any differently if we believe we're in a simulation?
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer to that question.
Okay.
But I do think that Vopson's work encourages us to live more consciously, to appreciate the interconnectedness of everything, and to remember that even in a simulated world, our choices and actions have real consequences.
It's like that saying, dance like nobody's watching, see, like nobody's listening, and live it like it's all real, because maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But either way, it's the only life we've got.
Beautifully said. And ultimately, whether we're living in a simulated reality or not, the quest for knowledge, for understanding, for meaning,
Yeah.
that's what makes us human.
So keep asking those big questions.
Yeah.
Keep exploring the unknown. Keep an open mind to the possibilities, however mind-bending they might seem.
Because who knows, maybe someday we'll crack the code, discover the ultimate nature of reality, or even learn to create our own simulations.
Wouldn't that be a wild ride?
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for our deep dive into the simulation hypothesis. If you're still pondering the mysteries of the universe and the nature of reality, be sure to check out the links and resources we've provided in the show notes.
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Join the conversation online, share your theories, and let's keep this fascinating exploration going.
And I want to give a huge shout out to YWatt and the W Files for inspiring this deep dive. Be sure to check out their blog and YouTube channel for more mind-blowing explorations of science, technology, and the universe.
They're the best.
And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, keep looking up.
Wait, what? Wait, what?